Great to have your company. Prime Minister Anthony Albanese says his government will consider the recommendations of a report prepared by the country's anti-Semitism envoy Gillian Segal. The recommendations include withholding public funding for universities and arts bodies that, quote, facilitate, enable or fail to reduce instances of anti-Semitism. Ms Segal says she hopes the report will help to combat one of the world's oldest hatreds.
In the space of just 1 year, reported incidents increased over 300%. And that includes threats, vandalism, harassment and physical violence. We've seen cars being torched, synagogues being torched, individual Jews harassed and attacked. And that is completely unacceptable. This should concern every Australian because the safety and dignity of one community affects us all. The plan is an overarching one, covering many areas where urgent action is needed.
Other recommendations in the report include calls for stronger regulation of online hate speech and a permanent standing arrangement for law enforcement agencies to cooperate on investigating anti-Semitic attacks. The Prime Minister has welcomed the plan, but has warned action will take some time.
Some of the plan requires a long-term approach. Some of it requires action by state governments. Some of it requires action by society, by the people watching this media conference as well. What we'll do is work constructively with the envoy. This isn't something that is, okay, on the 10th of July, done, tick, and we move on. This will be a process.
Let's discuss this more with the co-CEO of the Executive Council of Australian Jewry, Alex Rivchin. Alex, great to have you on the show.
Thank you.
Your organisation has endorsed this plan. Was there anything left out of it at all, or you just welcome it in its entirety?
Well, look, we welcome it. We have great faith in the Special Envoy Gillian Segal. She put an incredible amount of work into this plan. When she was first appointed to the position a year ago, she foreshadowed the creation of this national strategy, an all-encompassing plan to deal with anti-Semitism at its root and really restore our society to what it should be and what it always was, which is a just, tolerant and respectful place. The test will be, of course, in the implementation, and there's a lot to be done there, both for the federal government and wider society, and we look forward to working both with the envoy and with the government and all segments of society in ensuring that this plan becomes a reality.
And I want to ask you more on that in just a moment, but for those people in Australia that are not part of the Jewish community, that haven't directly experienced any of the rise in anti-Semitism that the envoy in such a detailed manner outlined, can you tell us what it's been like? Because some of her statistics were very alarming.
Look, it's been incredibly difficult, and it's been sustained now for over 21 months. We've seen things in this country which we've never seen targeting any community. And we as Australian Jews who trace our roots back to 1788, the very beginning of European settlement in this country, who have never been subject to institutional anti-Semitism, have faced fire bombings, have faced exclusion, boycotts, doxing, but a lot of the harm has been more what we might call everyday anti-Semitism, where Jewish school kids in school uniform are abused and flashed Heil Hitler salutes and chased down the street.
And that has changed in the last couple of years as far as you're concerned?
That's the sort of thing that used to be extremely rare in this country. It was not part of the Jewish existence in this country, but over the past 21 months, it's become normal. It's become a normal part of being Jewish and Australian. And that really is something that is deeply shameful, not for us, but for wider society. It's trashed our reputation abroad. It's degraded our standing as a free and democratic society. When you have one segment of Australians treated in this way, fearful of congregating, fearful of showing who they are, that is a blight on our society as a whole. And this has been the experience of the Jewish community for a long time now.
If the plan is implemented in full, can it stem the tide?
I believe it can. And both the Prime Minister and the Special Envoy spoke about realistic targets. The fact that anti-Semitism is so ingrained historically over thousands of years that it can't be permanently expunged from society, but what can be accomplished is that it can be pushed back to the peripheries, because what's happened over the last 21 months is that it's become a mainstream thing. The sorts of things that would occur only in far right or far left or fringe religious movements have now become everyday discourse and language directed at the Jewish community. So we want to restore it to where it should be, in the margins of society. It's ambitious, it's going to be a great challenge, but we have to begin here. And there's no one policy that's going to restore things. It requires a comprehensive engagement, and that's what this strategy does.
Anthony Albanese has been criticised by some for not doing enough. What did you make of his words today and his general demeanour towards the plan?
Well, look, we have been critical of certain things that have been said or done or not done for a period of time. But I think today marks a new dawn, a watershed when we can move forward. And the Prime Minister spoke with great force and great conviction and great emotion about what anti-Semitism has done, what he has witnessed, how it has torn down the fabric of this great country. And sitting there and listening to him, I'm absolutely convinced that he's determined to now fight back against this, and we will require his leadership. Aspects of the plan are for him and his government to implement, but other parts of it, as we've said, are for broader society, sports and culture and universities and schools and business to work on. But we need the leadership of the federal government to say this is the way forward and we want to see it implemented.
So much detail on the plan that some of us are still digesting it, trying to get through it all. Towards the end, I read a part that talked about the Jewish community having to reach out and establish more interfaith, intercultural relationships. Is that a criticism of the Jewish community or just a reflection of how you've had to withdraw a little bit because of the attacks? Yeah,
look, that's a good observation, and I think it's just the reality of the times, because the Jewish community had very extensive engagement with wider society, and a great tradition of civil participation in the military, in the law, in the arts. But one thing that happens when we're boycotted, when we're sanctioned, when we're shadow banned, when we're pushed out and harassed, is that inevitably Jewish Australians seek the comfort and shelter of their own. And so that engagement with wider society, I think, has been tarnished and damaged, and we need to reinstate it, because one of the best ways we fight anti-Semitism is by having Jewish and non-Jewish Australians together, seeing their common humanity, piercing the myths and the stereotypes. So we need to deepen that engagement, but also at a formal institutional level, a lot of the dialogues that happen with other faiths and cultural groups in the wake of October 7 have really desisted, and we need to reinvigorate those. We need to find partners in other communities that can work with us, build bridges, and restore the fabric of this country.
We need to work out how to start talking to each other again.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Alex, really appreciate your time here on ABC News.
Thank you so much.
Alex Lifchin, who's the co-CEO